Alright, I'm back with another Destiny 2 video, and as you can see from the incredibly generic image up top here, we are not getting a reveal for what the reprised raid is going to be for Season 18. This is a prediction I made earlier, based on the fact that Bungie has decided to tell us essentially nothing lately. I wrote an article this week that Bungie has scaled back their communication because of threats to their personal safety, which I can fully understand, and yet I do think that's kind of a separate thing than let's not talk about this upcoming season, this upcoming subclass change, this upcoming reprised Destiny 1 raid until it launches. I don't really think that's the same category of stuff, and my personal thought is that they're leaning a little too heavily into this at the moment. I don't really get why this much stuff has to be a mystery, but we'll see if they explain it all. And if I cough during this at all, I'm sorry. I am once again getting sick. Any drops in sound, that might just be me trying to mute while I cough here. Alright, this week at Bungie, we're planning a raid date night. Happy solstice, everyone. The bonfire's lit, there's grass in the tower, and Guardians are donning their new armor with stats and glows to go with it. We hope you are enjoying your time in the EAZ this year. We have been tracking your feedback on what you are liking about the event, changes that aren't feeling good, as well as any improvements you'd like to see added. Thanks for sharing your feedback and keep it coming. Also, some pretty event-breaking bugs that will hopefully be fixed by the end of the event, but we will see those get mentioned. We've got a busy TWAB planned for you today. That's good. As promised, we'll be going over the launch date of the next raid and talking over some matchmaking changes rolling out in Season 18 and Season 19. Uh-oh, matchmaking changes. Let's get into it. Raid the date. Coming up in Season 18 will be our second go at bringing a raid out of the Destiny content vault, and this time it's going to be redacted. Sorry, we're saving the reveal of which raid is coming to Destiny 2 for our Destiny 2 showcase on August 23rd. But we wanted to make sure you had time to make any arrangements necessary to be ready on day one, so requests off work, hire a babysitter, but don't skip school phase. Your education is important. Redacted raid goes live at 10 a.m. Pacific on August 26, 2022. So that is what? Friday. Okay, so it's another weekend raid. Okay, so this implies heavily that the showcase is also going to have a pretty heavy focus on not just Lightfall, but also Season 18, because we also know we're not really learning anything about Season 18 story-wise until this. Also implies to me that this may also be the debut of Arc 3.0. If they're doing the raid, and if they're doing Season 18 story stuff, maybe they'll just put Arc 3.0 in this too, and we've gotten no indications that they're going to drop that early, so guess that's just a really big event there. Alright, because this will be a raid that many of you are already somewhat familiar with, we will be changing up the world first race similar to how we did with Vault of Glass. The raid will launch with contest mode for 24 hours. You'll need to be at 1560 power to be at the cap for all of the encounters. Clearing the raid with contest mode active is the first step to access the new challenge mode in the Director and the special triumph for completing all the challenge triumphs for each encounter. Completing the secret triumph, a curated list of challenges in this newly unlocked challenge mode, will be how a fire team crosses the world first finish line and claims their prize. To enforce the triumph requirements in the challenge mode, your team will wipe if you fail the success conditions during any encounter. So that's pretty much exactly how VOG works, pretty sure. Kind of makes, the reprise raid world first aren't quite as exciting necessarily, but, I'll still watch it. Challenge mode and the secret triumph will only be available for the first 24 hours. Pretty sure they should make challenge mode just a thing for instead of hard mode, but so make haste if completing it is on your bucket list. The first fire team to do so will be declared the world's first winners pending a review from our team. If everything checks out, the final 6 members of the winning fire team in the activity will be awarded the coveted raid belts as a monument to their achievement. Good luck. Making matches. Starting in Season 18, we'll be introducing some changes in how we play Matchmaker in the Crucible. This will be the first iteration that is part of a larger plan going through Season 19. Our world systems teams are leading the charge on this transition and are here with a big dump of info on what to expect. Let's talk about skill and connection. Oh god. Oh man. Do we have to? We're talking about this for so many years now. We know this has been discussed with a lot of passion and goodwill in many places in the community and inside Bungie, so we are going to give you a clear TLDR before we get deeper into the how and why. Okay, so this is them communicating. They're still communicating, just in TWAB form. We're striving toward a goal that all players, that all players, including new lights, can enter the Crucible and regularly get matches where they can feel competitive and have a reasonable chance of winning/competing. Making fair matches using skill-based matchmaking is going to be important to help us meet that goal. We are starting by implementing loose SPMM to the control playlist at the start of Season 18. Loose SPMM has a wider starting skill similarity than survival and should result in matching with a wider variety of players while also eliminating some of the frustrations we see in our current system. Expect loose SPMM to expand to other playlists in the future, in future seasons as we tune what we consider high-quality match by gathering real data and feedback from you. We are not planning to add it to every Matchmade Crucible playlist. We will continue tuning until we are in a good place. We will report tuning updates regularly. We will be implementing a form of Fireteam-size preferred matchmaking in Season 19. A lot of what follows is pretty in-depth. Feel free to skip to the tuning section below if you aren't interested in the details and just want a high-level view of what you'll be expecting. I mean, if you're here with a guy reading a TWAB on video, chances are you care about the details, so let's go through them. Goals of creating high-quality matches. We developed some goals, which we'll be working on over the next few seasons. All players, including new lights, can enter the Crucible and regularly get matches where they can feel competitive. All players, whether solo or with a fire team, can find a place in the Crucible where they can play a variety of matches and have a reasonable chance of winning and competing. We are defining reasonable as expected win rate between 40 and 60% for most matches. Players are rewarded based on their skill and proud of their skill. Reserve a place for players who do not want to engage in the skill system. Generally speaking, any matchmaking in a competitive multiplayer game tries to put together high-quality matches. We consider three things when assembling a high-quality match. Connection quality. There are two types of connection quality that are important. Connection to game server, connection to other players in the match. Generally, bad connections to other players have a larger effect in Crucible than connection to the game server, so when we talk about connection quality in the Crucible, we are talking about that connection from player to player. Lower quality matches result in jerky movement by other players, missed shots, or getting unexpectedly damaged or killed. When fire teams are spread across the globe, we pick a single player's latency to speed up finding matches. Match fairness. Ideally, all players in a match have a reasonable chance to win that match, i.e. have similar skill. Matchmaking speed. We always consider matchmaking speed as a key element. No one wants to wait 10 minutes between matches, no matter how perfect they end up being. Correct. When matchmaking, we must balance these three elements. If we want lower matchmaking speed, we are either going to need matches that are less fair or matches with lower connection quality. We'll continue tuning to try to find the best balance possible. Skill. Throughout this TWAB, we will be using the term skill. In Destiny, that term refers to how we rate all players who participate in PvP on a scale of 2,000. Player skill is reflected in a graph that looks like this. Oh look, there's me, right there. If you zoom in, I don't know. Probably. Internally, skill is a combination of stats made up of your performance, kills, deaths, captures, round wins, revives, dunks, etc. that ranks you against all other players in the match. Each player's skill is compared against the skill of other players in a match, and we make skill adjustments for all players at the end of a match where the two rankings differ. There is also a confidence rating. The more games the system has seen you in recently, the more confident the skill adjustment is. In addition to the stats mentioned above, skill encompasses all sorts of things. Your reaction times, agility, how you approach fights, how well you know the map mode, how well you know your character, how well you build your character, the weapons, armor, and mods you use, and how you blend all of those into performance with other players. You won't ever see a skill value in-game. That'd be kind of hilarious. They just stamp everybody with a skill value. And while we are currently only using it to try to get fair matches in survival and elimination, we still track it for all modes, including Gambit. Oh man, gotta see what my Gambit skill is. This gives us a reasonable starting spot in new game types like Rift or Zone Control. Now, how do these skill numbers actually play out in-game? Here's a good shorthand we use internally. If someone is 200 skill above you, you can definitely tell they are better than you, and they will win 75% of engagements against you. The opposite is true if someone is 200 or more below you. By the time you get to a difference of 400, the better players are going to win 90% of engagement, and lower skill players are going to need to get extremely lucky to pull off a win. Once you get to 600, there's basically zero chance for the lower skilled player to ever win a 1v1 conflict. This is kind of awesome. I love how scientific this is. This is like 1v1 me bro, but scientific. Engagement should get fair the closer you are to the same skill. That is our goal. The problem space. As we started looking at the competitive landscape in Destiny, we noted a few things. Outside of survival and elimination, the ability to influence whether your team wins or loses is usually out of your personal control if you are average skill or below, half the population. This can feel bad as the match outcome feels essentially random and you don't feel motivated to try to win. This has contributed to us de-emphasizing winning as a requirement to gain rewards in the Crucible. Yeah, fair. The current landscape also allows brand new players to match up with some of the highest skill veterans and are expected to compete. On the flip side, if you're highly skilled, you're often put on a team where it feels like you are carrying them and you must consistently perform if you want to stand a chance at winning. This doesn't feel good for anyone. In Control, the skill disparities on a team can be stark. Over 50% of matches have a skill disparity of 900 or more between the best player and worst player, which is so significant that the outcome is already known before a single shot is fired. What? That's incredible. On the other hand, in freelance survival, 60% of matches have a 250 skill difference or less. That is much more reasonable. These wide variances in skill also lead to more mercy games than you'd expect. For example, Control. Wide disparities in skill also exacerbate other problematic elements. With wide disparities in skill, trapping a single team in a spawn is significantly easier. With wide disparities in skill, it is more likely that most of one team is dead at the same time, freeing the other side to roam around and look for new targets without having to worry about more danger. We call this snowballing. They don't say that, but that's kind of what snowballing is. Because of these extreme factors, no matter what your skill, it becomes harder to tell if you are improving or not. Was that a great play, or are they just a worse player than me? You may, quite reasonably, look for other stats to determine how good you are. Kills, assists, and deaths, KDA, are great, but it's still unclear how good your opponents are. Given that matchmaking is dependent on a lot of factors, a KDA in a low population situation can mean a very different thing, skill-wise, than a KDA in a normal or high population scenario. You can also check third-party sites who track ELO. A ranking system is originally designed for chess. Oh, I didn't know that. ELO isn't something we track, use, or validate, so it's a use-at-your-own-risk data point. Oh, interesting. So everyone always talks about ELO like it's some super official thing, so maybe not. If you can't tell you're improving, it's hard to be motivated to try and improve. This kind of sums up how I feel about Crucible after playing for 7 years. On the whole, I have played a good amount of Crucible, and fundamentally, I feel very marginally better than I do after 7 years. And I don't know, yeah, some of that is me, but some of it may be matchmaking to some degree and how that works. But yeah, I don't know. We know we have to do something to solve these problems and more to get Crucible in a better place. We know we won't be able to address everything in one fell swoop for Season 18, but this will be the start of an ongoing process to improve PvP over time. Match balancing. Once we match a group of players into a lobby, assuming we don't have any full fire teams, we try to split them up into balanced teams. If the player skills are somewhat random, the system is a tough time. We've tried several different algorithms here to mix results. For the time being, we are hoping that reducing the skill variability in any given lobby will make this easier. SPMM and Control. At the start of Season 18, we are going to start tuning match fairness back up in Control and only Control in the Crucible. We want to start slowly to limit the number of playlists we consider when tuning matchmaking with hundreds of thousands of people. We can do some testing, but nothing can fully simulate how the population will be affected by these changes before we ship. We are going to be live tuning the matchmaking parameters over the first few weeks until we land on something that provides a better balance between fairness, quality, and speed. We will not be touching any other Crucible playlists during Season 18. Trials has no planned changes to its matchmaking, elimination, and glory. We'll still use the same SPMM they have been using, and everything else will still use the connection-based matchmaking system they have for years. We are currently planning to make further adjustments in Season 19, based around the goals listed above, but rest assured, any major changes will be communicated in either a TWAB or a blog post as well as patch notes. This is a very long TWAB to read when I'm dying of lung issues. Sorry. Oh man, I'll get through it. Okay, connection-based matchmaking. Connection-based matchmaking, CBMM, is what most of the Crucible playlists utilize to find matches that have the best possible connection quality. First, we identify a pool of available players with a good connection to you. Within that pool, we choose players with the very best connections. If we can't find players within that pool, we widen the variance in connection. We repeat until we find enough players, and we break them into equally skilled teams. A key point about matching in a fire team: the latency we measure to find a good match does not take into account a fire team with disparate connection speeds. We only measure latency for one of the players in a fire team. So if you are in Tokyo and you are in a fire team with someone in New York and someone in Johannesburg, you are in for some laggy Crucible matches no matter what lobby you join. Oh, good to know. Sorry, Johannesburg friends. Skill-based matchmaking, better known as SVMM, skill-based matchmaking uses a similar model to connection-based matchmaking. In addition to latency, SVMM uses skill similarity when asking to join a lobby. Like latency, the acceptable skill similarities expand over time. First, we identify a pool of available players with a good connection to you. Within that pool, we choose players closely matched to your personal skill rating. If we can't find players within that pool, we widen the variance in skill. If that doesn't work, we expand the search again with more variance in connection quality. Once enough players are selected, we break them out into equally skilled teams. Our current Glory matchmaking settings prioritizes connection quality and matchmaking speed. While still trying to find a fair match, the goal for this, the goal statement for a standard SBMM is we would rather sacrifice some match fairness in order to maintain connection quality and matchmaking speed. SBMM. Our initial version of loose SBMM for the control playlist is going to work a little differently. It starts with wider acceptable skill variants and then expands very slowly on both acceptable skill and connection quality at the same time. The goal statement for this new loose SBMM is start with a broad definition of match fairness and compromise on matchmaking speed in order to keep match fairness and connection quality high. We expect overall matchmaking times to go up, more so if you and your fire team are on either end of the skill curve, depending on the current population of your region. However, we are hoping the trade-off for matches that aren't super sweaty or lopsided blowouts will be worth it. We have analytics set up to review overall matchmaking data each hour, especially critical over the opening weeks of the season, and we'll be monitoring and adjusting things and thresholds above while we try to hone in on good settings. Control is generally a nice high population playlist, so it will be a good testbed for tuning like this. What are we going to be looking at as we tune? Amongst other things, we're looking at matchmaking time, minimize players who cannot find a match in 10 minutes with a goal to keep the average under 2 minutes and under 4 minutes for 95% of players. 4 minutes, whew. Mercy games. Right now, mercy rates vary based on map, as low as 5%, as high as 25%. We believe the number of mercy games should be under 5% on all maps, but not actually hit 0. Final score differential. In general, games should be closer in score. Right now, 65% of matches end with one team hitting the score target, 15% going to time, 15% ending with a mercy. Our goal is that 80% of matches end with one team reaching the score target and most of the rest ending within a time limit. We are looking for most matches to have under a 10-point difference between the two teams. Interesting. That seems very slim, especially if you're control and you're getting like 3 points a kill. That's, yeah. Less variance between the top player and bottom player. Right now, 5 to 10% of matches have the best player scoring 39 more kills than the worst player in the match, and 50% of matches have the best player getting 20 to 29 more kills. Wow. We believe 90% of matches should have a less than 20 kill difference between the best and worst players, and 50% should have no more than a 10 kill difference. Big reduction. All this is great, but there are some things it does not address that we will be looking forward to in future seasons. As we discussed in the skill section, player skill in Destiny and most games tend to follow a bell curve centered around skill 100. That means half of players are clustered between negative 100 and 300, and just above 1%, and just 1% above 800 or lower than negative 550. When you do skill-based matchmaking with skill windows, what ends up happening is players at either end of the bell curve have fewer potential players to match against, and thus potentially take longer to find a match with a good connection. This is one of the reasons we will start with a wider skill threshold and expand more slowly to make sure we go through all available players. Like we've said, we expect this to cause longer matchmaking times initially, but it's important that we are going to be looking at outlier skill thresholds and tuning the experience for them. In a future season, we are hoping to introduce some technology that allows us to search with a wider skill variance based on your position in the skill curve and keep matchmaking times much more consistent, with the downside of loosening some match fairness. Fire team size mismatches. It's no mystery that full fire teams often stop 6 solo players who matched against them. Fire teams that are used to playing together also may be in voice chat with each other, allowing them to communicate more effectively than those who are not. Oddly enough, if we look at average skill for solo players, it fits the bell curve from above clearly. If we look at the average skill for full fire teams, we can see the bell curve centers around 4 to 500. So not only do fire teams have a communication advantage, but they have a decisive skill advantage. That's not super surprising considering I feel like you're more likely to be a better player if you have enough friends to consistently play Destiny with that you're playing Crucible all together. I think that makes sense. The big question, are high skill players more inclined to play in fire teams, or do regular fire teams make your skill go up? Well, there you go. Either way, we'll be implementing a form of fire team size preferred matchmaking in Season 19. We will be sharing details about how it works closer to release. Our goal for it is to be utilized like skill, sometimes as a strict requirement, sometimes as a loose one, or sometimes not used at all. Further, it will allow us to eventually replicate the benefits of playing in a freelance playlist without having to split the population. That is our current plan going forward. We will keep you updated as we tune settings in Season 18 and beyond. Whew. That was long. Alright, we'll see if there's anything else. I feel like that's probably the bulk of everything. Voting on the Trials map. Everyone voted for Eternity for some reason. Prime Awards. Player support. Known issues. Are there any good ones in here? Some players are only receiving... Okay, so they at least did that one. Some players are only receiving 1 Silver Ash and secondary characters, including a Bonfire Bash. Alright, well, at least they got that one in there. Movie of the week. Art of the week. It's a statue. Jeez, that's very cool. It's Keitel theme. All right. We covered a lot today, so I'm going to keep this outro short. Leave another date to mark on your calendar with the redacted raid going live on August 26th. If you haven't already, make sure you have August 23rd on there as well for the Destiny 2 showcase. Can't wait for you to see what we've been cooking up, Cosmo. So, yeah. I mean, again, I'll just say I don't really get the mystery thing for the raid. Me not being expert PvP player, this sounds like a good plan to me. Like, I know a lot of like pro Crucible people are probably going to complain about it because it theoretically is going to give them sweatier matches and less people to stomp on, but it also means they won't have to be like carrying horrifically bad teams, which they also complain about. So I feel like they're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. I will be curious to see how this works in practice. It sounds like it's going to take a long time to make this work, but like the disparity you see in CBMM in Crucible across all modes is just ridiculous. Like, it is absurd, some of the matches you get into. And like, not even like I can perform average, but like I totally see that like one player gets 45 kills and someone shows up and goes 1 in 30. Like, I see that all the time. So I really do kind of understand what they're saying here about shoring up that gap. And I thought that's, I don't know where it is now, this is too long, but like that one section where they talk about if they have a 900 skill gap or 600 skill gap, it's like physically impossible to win a 1v1. Like, that sounds goofy, but like I can totally see how that would be true, and that kind of explains a lot actually. And like, like that's the thing, is like you don't know. Like, you don't, every time you get in a firefight when there is no accounting for skill and matchmaking, you don't know if you're going up against a 100 skill differential or a 900. And I mean, you'll figure it out pretty quick if that person keeps killing you, which they frequently will, or vice versa. But that is, yeah, it's the section that is very problematic, and that's something I've seen in Destiny for a very long time. So this is not getting into like larger PvP things like, hey, some new maps, like a lot of new maps, that would be great, things like that. But yeah, I am not surprised they're trying this eventually, because especially when it comes to new players, like trying to get a new player into Crucible is like ridiculously impossible with the way things work now. So ultimately this sounds like a good idea. Whether it will work is another question, because many things can go wrong, obviously, and it seems like it's going to take a pretty long period of tuning and adjusting to get it right. So there's going to be a lot of complaining along the way, I'm sure, but what else is new? So anyway, this is a late TWAB, and I don't know when this video will go up because I also have to go get Noah from daycare, and this timing was not great. But thank you for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.